January 15th, 1919. Boston's North End hummed with the usual rhythm of a winter's day. Horse-drawn carts clattered over cobblestones. Early automobiles chugged past bustling pedestrians bundled against the chill, and the nearby elevated train rumbled overhead. Children played, workers headed home for lunch, unaware they stood near a ticking time bomb, not of dynamite, but of something far stranger: molasses. Looming over Commercial Street stood a colossal steel tank, 50 feet tall, 90 feet wide, owned by the Purity Distilling Company. Inside, over 2 million gallons of crude molasses awaited processing into industrial alcohol, a key ingredient for munitions needed in the Great War, which had only recently ended. The tank was relatively new, but poorly constructed and known to leak. Locals sometimes collected the sweet drippings. Warnings about its groans and creaks under the strain of its contents had been ignored. That unusually warm January afternoon, the pressure became too much. Shortly after noon, witnesses reported a deep rumbling sound like machine gun fire as the tank's rivets popped like buttons off a tight coat. Then, with a deafening roar, the steel walls catastrophically failed. The tank didn't just leak, it exploded. A monstrous wave of dark, viscous molasses, estimated to be 15 to 25 feet high, erupted outwards at a terrifying speed, perhaps 35 miles per hour. It surged through the streets with the force of a tsunami. Buildings in its path were smashed into kindling. The sheer weight and force of the wave buckled the girders of the adjacent Boston Elevated Railway's Atlantic Avenue structure, nearly tearing a train from its tracks. People and animals were swept up instantly. The thick, sticky liquid was inescapable. It crushed victims against debris, suffocated them, and pinned them down. Horses, strong beasts of burden, drowned where they stood, unable to free themselves from the rapidly cooling, glue-like morass. The initial wave crashed through homes, businesses, and the Engine 31 firehouse, killing firefighters inside. The scene was one of utter chaos and horror. Buildings collapsed, debris swirled in the brown tide, and the air filled with the screams of the trapped and injured, mingling strangely with the sickly sweet smell of molasses that would hang over the North End for decades. Rescue efforts began almost immediately, but they were nightmarish. Rescuers waded waist-deep through the thick, clinging goo, which hampered every movement. The cold January air began to solidify the molasses, making extraction perilous. Doctors and nurses arriving on the scene found themselves stuck fast, needing rescue themselves. They worked tirelessly, pulling victims from the wreckage, many barely recognizable beneath the dark coating. The aftermath was grim. 21 people lost their lives, ranging from a 10-year-old boy to an elderly woman. Around 150 more were injured, some severely. The property damage was immense, equivalent to tens of millions in today's currency. The cleanup took weeks, involving hundreds of workers and firefighters spraying salt water from the harbor to dissolve the sticky mess, shoveling the residue onto carts and dumping it into the bay. The legal battles that followed were among the first class action lawsuits in Massachusetts history. Purity Distilling initially blamed anarchists, a common scapegoat at the time, but expert testimony revealed the truth. The tank was structurally unsound, rushed into service without adequate testing, and built with steel too thin for its immense load. The company was found liable and paid out substantial damages to the victims and their families. The Great Molasses Flood remains one of history's most bizarre and tragic industrial accidents, a sticky, deadly reminder of corporate negligence hidden beneath the cobblestones of Boston. A wave not of water but of sweetness turned lethal, forever marking a neighborhood with its strange, dark legacy. Subscribe